Earthrift is back. This time it's not designed around Wukong, it is designed around Hecate. So there's definitely good options even if you don't have her. Being a limited hero, you can't RNG into her, and her banner is over already. But this Rift looks pretty easy, to be honest. I don't think it's going to be much of a problem even if you don't have her. Let's go ahead and take a look at the controllers first. So, first one, you want this one. When the boss takes a non-crit, increases damage suffered by 50%. I'm loaded up on anti-crit, or non-crit units rather. Arunka, Hecate, and Senya all can't crit. This one is pretty useless. If you're using a crit hero, it decreases their damage, but dispels an Abyssal Tentacle and like Sever. It basically, you remove Sever by landing non-crits, so this lets you remove it with a crit. It's once per turn, so it's okay. Like if you need more Sever application, you could use this, and then this one's useless. At RC8, so at RC2, actually, I'm already two-shotting, which means that at RC8, once we pick up this one, gives you greater attack buff after using skill 3. We're definitely going to be one-shotting, plus the increased damage just from hitting RC8. I have Hecate and Arunka skills off right now, but we'll turn them on at RC8. RC15 doesn't really matter, because we're already probably one-shotting at RC8. This would just extra stuff, gives you extra damage on the back row warrior, and then I would assume that this one is where we start soloing. At RC21, we get extra turn after the warrior in the back row uses a basic skill. The extra, even though we're soloing, the extra turn is relevant because that is more Sever for us to remove and also more debuffs, or more debuff extension for us to apply, because you don't want the boss to take too many turns. Once every 2 turns just means that you can't like proc it back to back to back. But this is probably the solo setup, and they also added this, which I think is nice. Perma Death Break on the enemy if you don't have anti or non-crit units. It'll basically just keep the boss death broken. Because Hecate full pen, so this is like the it's if you don't have Hecate, not if you don't have non-crit units. Like Arunka probably benefits a ton from this. And then this is the team that we'll be using: Schniel, Senya, Arunka, and Hecate. These 3 units don't crit, and they'll be dealing all the damage, while the boss also applies Venom, so Schniel will be very nice for removing all of that, and he has pretty decent enough damage on his S3 too, plus the defense buff helps a lot with tanking. Some alternative units: if you don't have Senya, you could use Wukong. Wukong has crit res, pen res on his S2, helps out a ton with tanking, though you won't be able to remove any Sever unless you use the RC1 device, which is going to increase your damage a little bit. The other thing is, you probably need to give him Sigurd's Scythe, or he's going to die. Or you could just build him really bulky, but you might as well just give him Sigurd's. And then, yeah, that's pretty much it. His damage is really high. Like, his S3 damage does so much for no reason. Other alternatives, it's kind of like, finding units that can't crit on Earth is a bit rough. Your options are pretty limited. It's like, let me see, Earth units that cannot crit Earth units. It's like Laya, Arunka, Yoha, Senya, Renok, Blooming Litica, and Hecate. So those don't sound very good. Like, the only one that sounds even decent is Renok. And Renok steals a lot of turns with her S2, which is a little bit annoying, but she would be like the budget option. Another team comp that you could do, actually, is if you put Wukong in the front, and then you put this area over here, you can try to land Death Break with this area S3. There are certain tunings that you can do to try and land the Death Break. And then Wukong will be able to deal pretty good damage as a result, so you could try that team as well. But we're gonna use this team for now. It's got 100%, or there's no RNG because we're not using Death Break. Let's take a look at their stats. Let's start off with Hecate. For Hecate, I've got her on speed Torrent set because she already full pens, so we're just going to use Torrent. I also have her on her personal artifact, though really just any damage boosting artifact probably works fine. I haven't tried Uberius either. I'm not sure which one's better. Her stats don't matter too much. It's just a bunch of attack, and I gave her about 200-ish speed. Next up is Arunka. Arunka pre doesn't matter for now. At RC8, we're going to turn her skills on. And I'm not sure whether I want the CR push or the damage. I'll probably try out both at RC8, but I think it one-shots regardless, so it's probably not super important. The S1 bleed chance is useless though. And then I'm using, what is this? Our Beautiful Season on her, just damage, generic damage boost. Gave her a ton of attack and a bit of speed, about like 170-ish. Senya is also give her a bunch of attack. You do want to give her a little bit more bulk because she is in the front slot and will be tanking a bit more damage. Once you remove all the tentacles, it's not as much damage, especially because you're going to be like permanently maintaining defense buff from Schniel. So just a respectable amount of bulk is good enough. For her EE, if you really need the healing, you could grab the S1 healing, but the S3 greater attack buff is much better because there's no other attack buff sources, so you're gonna want the greater attack buff from her S3. And I think Candlestick is her best artifact because the cooldown, like S3 cooldown, has a 1-turn gap usually, and the boss hits you so many times, especially with all the extra attacks, you're pretty much guaranteed to proc Candlestick at least once between S3s. This lets you permanently maintain your S3. Then Speed, Torrent buff as the sets. And then we have Schniel, who I just tried to run pretty slow. I might slow him down more in the future, just don't feel like doing it right now. His stats don't really matter too much because we have Touch of Rekos and Senya is taking most of the damage. You could gear him with like more attack, but I do think you want to keep his crit low because not critting is how you remove Sever. Sure, you have elemental advantage, so base 30% chance to crit, but still a 70% chance to get more damage from the non-crit and also just remove Sever. And then Touch of Rekos as the healing artifact. I would imagine Celestine also works fine. And thanks to Mystelic for helping with this setup. Let's go ahead and take a look at the run. For the general mechanics, when he uses his S2, it applies Venom, and that is why we have Schniel here. He'll just instantly cleanse off all of the Venoms. I left him skills on so we can get defense buff, and since I have him really low speed, it'll help a little bit with cycling. And then Senya here is going to get her greater attack buff. Senya's damage is actually a lot in this fight, because she's countering every single hit, and once these Severs start stacking up, let me take a look at them real quick. The Tentacle increases his damage dealt and decreases damage suffered when taking a crit. And then the Sever increases his damage taken when suffering a crit. Some other mechanics is just the hit him 5 times, and he will, the Sea of Death thing there, he's going to hit you back and he's going to extend all of his debuffs. If you have good RNG, then you might be able to extend the Severs past the 5th turn, but it's RNG because Arunka's S1 is a 50% chance to proc the extra attack, so not guaranteed. Senya counter helps a ton with that though. So here, pretty much, if Arunka procced there, then we would have been fine, because we're not going to get to see it here, I guess, but the way the extend works on this S3 is he's going to hit you, and then it goes down 1 turn, you counter, and then it'll proc the extra attack before the turn ends. So if the extend went through there, he would have kept his Severs on this turn, but that's the RNG part of Arunka. And besides that, there's not really much more to say. If your tentacles wear off, you'll get them back on the next turn, so and then you can just remove them real quick. Also, of course, I have Arunka Hecate skills off for better Sever application, and just because their damage is not very impressive on their... Well, Hecate S3 damage is okay, I just don't think it's good enough to keep her skills on. And then the other thing is, at RC8, you would keep their skills on, of course. You saw Senya took a bunch of damage there was because of the tentacles going through. So that can happen sometimes. Generally it should be okay though. At worst case, you just go a bit more defense and HP on your Senya.
순환으로 돌아갈 때다. 감히 제가 살아가는 것은 이 순간을 위해서였군요. 끝까지 간다. 자, 꼼짝 말고 있거라.
영광으로 하려고.
Overall, that was a pretty bad RNG run. I think Arunka just did not want the proc at all that run, so we didn't get any debuff carryover between the S3s, but still, even then, 60% damage dealt on, I would say, pretty bad RNG is really nice. Taking a look at the battle results, you can see Senya is doing like all of the damage, and then Arunka after. Hecate's damage is kind of so bad, I'm considering giving her Warhorn is something that I might do. I need to look into that potentially. But that is it for this team. It's 100% 2-shot at RC2, and probably going to 1-shot at RC8.